All right, get ready to get triggered, because I'm going to be soldering on a 5090. And we all know how good I am at that. I promise I won't use super glue today. Oh wait, no, hot glue. I won't use glue.
Hey, Jay. Jay. Jay.
What?
We got work to do.
Yeah, I'm playing World of Warships. Yeah. World of Warships is the free-to-play naval strategy game where you command the most iconic and famous warships from World War I and World War II, recreated with stunning detail and accuracy. Build your fleet while participating in various game types while upgrading your ship's arsenal along the way. New players who sign up using my link below will receive an exclusive starter pack to get you up and running quickly by receiving 7 days premium time, 1 million credits, 300 doubloons, and the Tier 5 premium ship, the Exeter.
So what are you guys waiting for? Start sinking ships with World of Warships by heading to the description below and getting your freebies. Okay, so this is my 5090 Astral card right here that I've been trying so hard to get up into 4th place with, and then a random new player joined the chat and took over 4th place, which pushed 4th to 5th, which pushed 5th to 6th, which is me now. I'm now 6th. Anyway, I purchased from Elmore Labs the EVC2 controller. This allows me to actually solder a harness, which I set somewhere, here it is right here, onto the voltage controller built into the GPU. So this header right here, I figured it's PG Con 1 or something like that. Anyway, this allows me to actually communicate with, say, a laptop to the voltage controller on the graphics card to potentially get us, it goes both ways. So for instance, let me explain what I mean by this. Not always is more voltage better. Sometimes too much voltage is a bad thing. Now you got the voltage slider built into like PX1 or ASUS GPU Tweak, MSI Afterburner, but it always goes from 0, which is the standard curve, to up, right, to 100%. 100% just means bring in 100% of the max P0 state voltage at an earlier frequency. That's kind of all that does. It just sort of moves the curve. The problem with that is, for instance, this card right here, once I hooked my multimeter up to it and actually started measuring the voltage hardware-wise, the software said it was pulling 1150 millivolts, or 1.15 volts, but it was actually showing on my multimeter 1.25 volts. And that's why you'll notice now I got this little heatsink with a thermal pad on the shunts, because the shunts were hitting very warm 125 to spiking 140. Stuck, okay. And the problem with that is, yeah, although they might be able to handle it, it will start to phantom throttle the card to try and protect the power delivery system, which means even though it'll say, hey, it was running at this frequency, the effective clock is much, much lower. So if you ever download something like Hardware Info 64 and you look at your GPU clocks and your CPU clocks, you're gonna see core frequency or clock frequency, and then you're gonna see effective frequency. So you'll have the commanded frequency, but then you'll have the effective frequency, which is taking all of those things into account, all of the stuff on the board that has its limitations. So you could have a really cold core, say minus 30 or something like that, showing that it's running at, well, I don't know, 3,497 megahertz. But if parts of the power delivery system are overheating to provide that, then it'll actually be much lower effective clock, which can affect your scores. So the reason why I'm saying we can go both ways with this is with the EVC software from Elmore Labs, I can not only apply a positive offset, I should be able to apply a negative offset. So I can start playing around with some of the voltages and such. So what that ends up happening too is if it starts to spike voltage too high suddenly, not only could be a temperature problem for the power delivery of the card, it can also lead to very hard throttles. If the voltage goes too high and it hits power limit real hard, then the clock will drop suddenly to try and stop that from happening. So if we can dial this in a little bit smoother, we can get better average clocks, which means we can get better 1% lows, which will also mean we'll lift our score. So that's the idea behind this. This card has been relegated to the testing mule for this sort of thing. I also have this guy right here, and I got a bunch of them. This is an actual, just a little voltage meter. So I'm gonna be wiring this on there as well. because my multimeter is very difficult with how small the holes are in here to get it to hold its position and give me a proper readout. So this will just be kind of always on there showing me my voltage readout. Now yeah, Der Bauer did something very similar with this, actually the exact same thing with a 4090. We're just really fortunate that this little mechanism right here, which is where you can actually do hardware monitoring of like the PLL input voltage, the memory voltage, and the core voltage. And this location right here for the power delivery controller are identical from the 4090 to the 5090. That all carried over, the exact same componentry. So it's actually pretty easy to do because it is nothing new. First and foremost though, I gotta hook this card back up to my system real quick. I gotta probe the backside here. Because I gotta figure out where I'm going to be grabbing 12 volt and ground from. Now I could potentially just grab the back of one of these shunts right here that doesn't have any of the, I guess they were resistors. I think I already said this in another video. Asus got back to me and said that these initially had those resistors on the back in the early models because it was an attempt to reduce coil whine, but I guess they found other ways to do that. And so now these have pads that are there, but they aren't actually used. Fortunately, that means I have a nice, easy area to grab. So I can do ground on one, input voltage on the other, because the little device here needs input voltage to operate, and then C, which is the circuit voltage, will get put into the port right here that is going to show me the core voltage. So that's two things I gotta do. I gotta wire this harness in right here, and I gotta wire the voltage meter in. But first, I just want to do some sanity checking to make sure I'm about to solder correctly. I don't want to solder ground onto the 12 volt supply side of that shunt, or where that, not shunt, but where those pads are. There is a positive and a negative side to this, because it does flow in a certain direction. So if I get that backwards, it won't work. So I want to make sure I do it right the first time. And soldering to the ground on this board is very difficult because the ground, which is basically like the entire board and multiple layers, it's very difficult to get enough heat into the ground without having it just wick the heat away, which means that it doesn't actually want to, like the solder doesn't want to actually stick to it because it doesn't get hot enough. But I may or may not have already done this on another card, so I know. Stop showing it, Phil. I'm trying to tease them. Meaning I've got some experience on what I got to do to make it work. It's a pain in the ass, but shh, I think I have the right tip and everything applied. I apply heat to the board. I think I can do this without triggering you guys too badly. Okay, so the pads, which I showed you guys, where are they? Those guys right there, right? I was using my multimeter probing those and I wasn't getting anything more than a few millivolts through them. So we're thinking they just may not even be part of the circuit anymore or something. So Der Bauer was able to do it with his 4090 because all of those have the resistors across them like my other 5090 does. But I found this guy right here, which gives me what I need. So this side right here is 12 volt, this side is ground. And then that's where I'm gonna be attaching for my voltmeter here, obviously the black wire and the red wire. I'm learning, I am improving, but slowly, okay? So, throw me a freaking bone here, okay? You can all go flux yourself. Okay, let's go ahead and add a little more solder to that. Look at that, I'm getting better, okay? Okay, I'm improving. There's still lots of room for improvement, okay? And I certainly don't want to bridge them. Not bad. That's not a good connection. Okay, pretty solid. That middle hole is what I want. I'm gonna go ahead and ball that hole. I need to warm that hole up a little bit too. I'm gonna ball that hole up. That's a through hole, thank goodness. So that makes it nice and easy. Look, I'm getting better from the days we first started. You gotta admit, okay? It's still enough to trigger anyone that does this for a living, okay? But I am improving. Okay, let's pre-tin my wire. That is a pretty solid connection. I didn't get a chance to get it all the way through because the wire is like frayed open because when I pretended it like got hooked and pulled it open. I could trim it back, but that's good enough right there. Like everything's attached solidly. Look at this. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take it back over to the test station, plug it in, see if I'm getting volts on that. There we go. Okay, so it'd be nice if I had a 4-digit one. I might, in the future, change this to a 4-digit one, but right now I can see that's 90 millivolts, or no, excuse me, 900 millivolts. This says 950, that says 950. That says 1150, that says 1190. So this is where it's very important now to have proper reading on here because the software does not agree with the hardware. So that is why I added this, because as you could see, there was more voltage. There's more voltage going to this card than what the software is saying. The software said 1150, this said 1190. And that wasn't even under load. All right, that's done. Now we gotta get the voltage controller wired in. Okay, so the square hole gets the green wire. The ground is the middle, and then the bottom right there is the white wire. You can tell too that the middle one is ground because you see no traces coming off of it. That just goes to the whole board ground. So that's where it becomes really difficult to solder to it simply because of the fact that the heat instantly like wicks away. So there's like a preheating process I gotta go through to make it stick. It's not the prettiest. This won't be as pretty probably as the voltage meter because of the ground alone. But yeah, we'll get this. And this has to ground to there. It can't ground to a different ground on the, I guess technically it could, but it's just these 3 wires need to go into those 3 ports. And I don't know why that is, but that is the way it has been explained. And who am I to argue with the experts? Like I kind of want to do the ground first just because it's the biggest pain in the ass and I don't feel like burning the other wires near it. There we go. It looks like an amateur did it. It's better than what I was before. Wow. This is fun. Now I gotta really warm, get all the solder off there. I gotta really warm that middle hole up. Oof. See how much of that pad is showing? It's not what I want. Let's warm it up more. Okay, well, let's just see if that'll. Oh, it just took the whole thing out. Dang it. The ground on this is a pain in the ass, I'm telling you. I spent so much time on this on the other card. Okay. Not pretty, but it's on there. Okay, green goes on top.
Yeah, it just plugs in.
Because it's not a ground, and it's so tiny. I mean, can you remind them of how small this is that I'm working on? It's very teeny for a beginner solderer like me, but it didn't go into the hole. There it goes. Okay, and then to keep the wires from getting yanked right off of the PCB, I've got this really convenient cooler mounting hole right here that will allow me to zip tie the wires, and the ground wire just popped off. Okay, we'll just do all that again. As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by the ground wire. And this time I got it to actually go down in the hole and the solder stuck really good. So I think just a little more heat is all it needed. So yeah, I can crank that down real tight and any yanking will happen there and not on the wires there. So all right, there we go. So now we need to see if we're communicating with it. If we are, then I can prep the pot and we can see if this helped our scores at all. Okay, so the EBC2 is plugged into my laptop. I'm plugging this port into, these are basically all 3 communication ports. I can plug in any one. I'm gonna go to that one. Boom. Graphics card is off right now, but let's make sure that EBC2 software, yep, it sees if this wasn't plugged in, I would just get no device detected. See? So there we go. Let's go ahead and turn on the card. You can see I mounted my little voltage readout right there. It's just 2-sided taped at the moment. I tried to screw it through, but it doesn't line up with the hole just right, so that sucks. And now I have all my voltage control. So now I gotta take it apart, prep the block, get it all ready, but you can see how I have all my, so loop 1 is GPU, loop 2 is RAM, but I have like load line scale, load line calibration control, V out control. I got my vid offset. Oh, this isn't letting me go negative. I thought it would let me go negative. Darn. But I can lower, right? Yes, I can lower the initial output voltage. I can lower the initial output voltage and then add an offset if I need to, but this is where it becomes fun to play with this stuff. Not entirely sure, to be honest, if this is even gonna help, because I still think we're gonna hit a power limit no matter what. Okay, now I gotta prep the block. And we'll see if all of this was for anything other than soldering practice, but even if it was, I'm okay with that. I really just need to get a whole bunch of those soldering boards. I have different size holes and ground planes and stuff to practice with.
Why? When you have a $3,000 practice board right here?
Actually, I still have all the old like broken PCBs and stuff from previous experiments I could always practice with. Okay, so we're up and running. Here's see again, software does not report correctly, because as you can see, this is saying 950 millivolts. That's showing at least 970. I do think the software reporting from the actual voltage controller is pretty accurate though, because this is the EBC2 software from Elmore Labs. It says 0.975, which doesn't match what's up here. So I do think this is a bit more accurate, but there's nothing wrong with having hardware monitoring as well. This is always the more preferred way, but so far they match. Other things we can see here, which is really cool, we can see amps, like total amps for the output current for the total card. Loop 1 output power in watts, so I can actually keep an eye on wattage now. Now I know what parts of the test are harder to run than others, because some parts of the test only pull 400 and something watts, even though it's a 1,000 watt BIOS. And other parts of the test spike that 1,000. Loop 1 T-Sense. This is actually the VRM temperature. So I can keep an eye on that now too. And then loop 2 is voltage. So you can see the voltage is at 1.20. Output current 20, it jumps around, obviously output power. That's just how much power is being pulled by the memory. And then the temperature of the memory as well. So believe it or not, sometimes the memory, like right now the memory is at 16C. That's too cold, believe it or not. Sometimes you have to do like a warm-up run to warm the memory up. And because it's under my knead eraser, which I'm using to block out moisture, we'll keep the temps up, then the memory will overclock nicely. So sometimes like the first run might crash just because the memory is too cold. The memory likes to be warm in this card. Not hot, but warm, like 40, 50C. Okay, so now we need to do one sanity run where I'm gonna leave everything basically stock. And I just need to make sure now that I can get all the way through a run without anything weird or crashing. One thing I had to do off camera was I actually had to resolder on the connector for the EBC, because I think I might have, when I was trying to get the ground attached, might have actually created a bridge between the one of the controller wires and the ground, which fortunately doesn't damage the card. It just wouldn't let it turn on and boot, simply because of the fact that the controller was going into probably some weird state. So the card was getting like 15 millivolts, or actually no, it was 150 millivolts, and wasn't turning on. It wasn't powering the core, because the controller's like, whoa, I don't know what's happening, so I'm not gonna do anything. So I just took it off, cleaned it, wicked it all up, made it look like brand new again, redid the process. This time I made sure that there was no bridge, and it's up and running just fine now. So I don't know how safe I can go on the voltages. I really don't. I'm thinking 1.3, 1.35. This is the part now where I just start running it and seeing if I can improve, because like I said, there's a new person in 4th place, which pushed 4th place down to 5th, which pushed me to 6th. So I kind of just got to go for it now. I got nothing to lose at this point. Okay, my ears are ringing. I wish the camera was going because you would have seen me literally do the Homer like dance because doing my thing, pouring. I pumped the output voltage up to 3.5, 1.35, not for the core, but the total like output voltage. And then I did a 75 millivolt offset on the core. Nothing crazy, I've done that before. I even left the load line where it was. But in the middle of the run, there was the loudest pop I have ever heard in my life. My ears are still ringing. It's been more than 5 minutes since it happened. Nick was in a different part of the studio and was like, what the hell was that? And now, dead. And the button in the back's hard to turn. I think what I heard was the power supply explode. We were at 1102 watts on the graphics card. I honestly don't believe, based on the volume of the pop, that what I heard was a GPU or CPU or motherboard. I'm pretty certain it was power supplies, rail maybe going bye-bye? I don't know. Everything looks intact on the board. Like nothing on the board looks like it became external versus internal. What I'm hoping I'm gonna do right now is just swap the power supply and then it will the board will turn on. Oh, I knew something was up because right before the pop, I was like, the light's dimming. Bam! So this light was dimming and it's an LED. LEDs don't dim. I mean, they're not like incandescents where they're directly related to the current of going through the line. So that means that this low power LED light was getting starved of power. Motherboard turned on. Power supply went boom, boom. We need to make sure that the system works still because I don't want to go through all this and have it literally be pointless. Yeah, this is normal restart because I got unplugged.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, all right, well, that's good to know that the power supply died so that the truly important components can live. Okay, so as expected so far in the time I've been messing around with this off camera, more voltage does not help, except an exploding power supplies. What an eventful day this has been. Honestly, I did not expect this to go down the way it's been going, but the fact that it peaked 1100 watts and probably would have pulled more. Sorry, I'm just trying to focus on where my LN2 pouring is right now. The FPS on this actually looks pretty good, even though my pot is warm. Like I can't get it to, oh no, that FPS is kind of bad. But yeah, I'm getting ready to just kind of call it quits on the whole XOC thing. I hope to break top 10. I made top 5 for a little bit, and that's more of an achievement than I expected. I do have 2 PSUs going right now, like I said I was gonna do. I have the GPU on its own 1600 watt PSU. That did not help stability in any way. I thought maybe the 1500 watt was starting to get some ripple or something. That could have been affecting the card's stability, but I still have essentially the same wall I always had. So I did experience something weird, which I want to show you guys on camera, which cleared up before. I stopped benching for a little bit and I had to go to the little boy's room. And when I came back, the system was like, the GPU was giving me 40 FPS in this benchmark and all the sounds were like 8-bit and corrupted. And I think what potentially happened is the RAM chips froze. So I actually just did some runs for the hell of it and it warmed back up and now it's back. So I honestly think the RAM chips might have froze. I'm gonna try one more run now for a max run that I just got that to pass without a restart, which is actually kind of nice. I don't know, maybe if we just do one full run on camera where we just send it, maybe we'll get a score finally that's worth noting. I've got scores I haven't uploaded and I can't beat them. Yeah, I'm still down on FPS from where I should be. This just makes no sense sometimes. Like, you get these frequencies that'll run and give you like a really good result. And then you run those frequencies again and they're not the same result. It's so, and now it's too cold. It got too cold now it downclocked. Like, I feel like guys like Splave and OGS, they're just like, oh yeah, I'll do 3 runs. Oh look, a new world record. Oh, I gotta go back to my day job now. And it's like, I'm over here like hours and hours and hours and days and days and days and days and 460 liters of LN2 later. Still in 6th place. Like, I don't know, unless they're just like straight up cheating somehow. And I'm not saying that they were last time, but 4090 had a whole bunch of cheating going on. This is just absolutely, positively driving me insane. But here's what we're gonna do. I hope it doesn't explode. I truly don't want it to explode. I'm gonna go 450 on the core. No, I'm gonna go 460 on the core. I'm gonna drop the power back to like 110 so it doesn't shoot all the way up to 1100 watts again. And I'm gonna add a little bit of voltage. A little bit of voltage. Last time I did more than a little bit. Oh, I was just like, oh, that's the highest FPS I've seen right there. Crash. Got too cold, lost my video. Okay, I'm done. I got a quarter tank of LN2 left and I'm out of time for the day. I'm gonna probably screw around with this more off camera. You guys can just keep your eyes on the Port Royal leaderboard. I got a desolder on the other board, that cable, because that card wasn't as good as this card seems to be, but I gotta take a poop.